Welcome back to part 3. We've got Matt joining us now. First of all, Matt, how are you? How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. We have got a good selection of races coming up. It's past, the pre-season jitters and all the excitement. We're now kind of into the season. You now understand what all the car packages are. And I think as well, this is where we've actually kind of seen the new regulations actually produce really good close racing. Yes, there's been a few instances of people touching each other. That's more in the driver error. But we've actually been able to see cars which are slightly more equally balanced and actually can provide some really good overtaking, and not just racing across one corner, but multiple corners throughout the whole entire lap. So I think we've got some really good ones ahead of us here.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some controversy. We've got McLaren being quite good, generally good. We've got some strategy calls, like the whole McLaren package for 2024 so far. So let's kick off. Let's start with Spain. So yeah, in this final bit, we're going to be covering Spain, Austria, Britain, Hungary, and then Belgium, of course, which was the last race before the summer break. So going back to Barcelona, I mean, it was a great start to the race. Norris getting the P1, the first, the pole position. We'll sort of separate the drivers because they had very different races. I mean, it was quite a contrast to Piastri, who was P9. I mean, he said he struggled in the car. We'll talk about a bit about Piastri a little bit later on. But of course, we'll start with Norris because obviously he started on pole. Not a great start. I mean, how many times have we said that? Like, even in this podcast, I've said it a few times. Doesn't have a great start. Verstappen gets alongside him going in, but it was mainly George Russell, wasn't it, going round the outside. Russell flies into the, almost had his own like Frugo's Hamilton moment of like, there's Russell suddenly dive bomb into the inside. Of course, this is also the time when Mercedes starts to really look like a strong force that we haven't seen since about 2021. So it was quite a surprise. Like, what was your reaction to the Spanish Grand Prix overall? Like, sort of, how did you feel McLaren got on, especially that start for Norris?
Yeah, I think this is where it's kind of where this was kind of the turning point, I think, for me, where when we started to analyze and be like, right, Norris doesn't have a great start. I think this is kind of the point when we kind of pinpointed it, being like, okay, it's happened once or twice by this point, and this was kind of like, okay, something is needing to be addressed here. I think what we've established by this point within the season, when we got to the Spanish Grand Prix, is that, by far, the McLarens are super, super quick. Like, during the races, they can race, they can have good top high-end speed. And it just seems really, really well balanced, as opposed to, like 3 or 4 years ago where they were really, really struggling. But the issue here, though, it does just seem that, like, Norris does go super defensive straight off the line. And that's typically what is slowing him down. So in this example, you've got Max Verstappen by his side and everyone's bigging up the pressure because they're friends in Monaco and creating this lovely little rivalry. And so Max does have a good start, but the pattern I found with Lando is that he will try and push him towards the track edge. So having to brake a little bit more, compromising that. When in actual fact, it's kind of like, just look at the bigger picture here. If you just stick to your racing line and just go for it, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be absolutely fine, because you do already have, although you don't have the inside line, actually, because you're already ahead, you should be absolutely fine with it. And this is kind of what happened with Russell from behind. Because these two guys were kind of fighting and having to not necessarily slowing each other up, he just gets this incredible back-to-back toe, first behind Verstappen, then Norris, and then he is able to absolutely swing it all the way around. I mean, I was surprised that George had the grip going around that corner first when they've had no racing prior. But yeah, so I think that is the common thread, unfortunately, we're going to start to find with, Lando's going a bit too defensive as soon as the lights go out. But at the same time, he's just wanting to make sure he's ahead by the first corner by any means necessary.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you speaking of that reminded me of Hungary, where it's a very similar situation where he tries to block off Oscar and obviously Max gets round. And we've got to remember that usually, I mean, there are some circuits where it's different, but usually the pole position is in the best racing line. So you're right, if you've got pole, you should just sort of back yourself to go through it. Do you think there's a little bit, I mean, you touched on it there, like maybe a lot of the media narrative about it being Verstappen v Norris. Do you think that was maybe in his mind a little bit? Maybe that's why he felt he had to get over and put Verstappen, not in the wall, but certainly edge him that way.
Well, I think it's a really good classic technique, which also Verstappen does quite a lot as well, is that effectively, if you're going down into, like, say, a right-hand corner, if everyone can close their eyes and imagine the first corner of, let's say, Austria, right? If you've got someone going down your inside, and it's pretty much side by side, what you can sort of do is basically, if you're on the outside, is that you can just slowly squeeze them into the inside, thus having for them to break a lot earlier. That means you can then carry a lot more speed. And it's a really good defense tactic to make sure that you're not conceding your position. And so I think that's what Norris is trying to do here. Is basically that's why they come swooping all across, not to hit them or to like, you probably won't even be able to get in front of them because you're having to use a bit of steering angle, therefore it's slowing you down. It's millimeters we're talking about here. But I think that's what he's trying to replicate, which is kind of good during the race, but at the race starts, it's just getting the enough traction going off. And I think as well, you see the reaction times as well popping up on the screen, and most of the times his isn't super quick, but also at the same time, it's like 0.00 of a second. I'm of it. Like, we can critique it as much as we can, but in terms of like, you know, getting to his head, as you were mentioning before, I think a lot of these drivers, they do just take it race by race. I think it's a little bit unfortunate where, you know, back in the time when we had like James Hunt and Niki Lauda, you know, properly shouting or arguing each other before a race, or even having heated arguments, sort of if they've crashed or after the race, that absolutely would do. I think we're at the point now where it's like they're all living together. They're all living together in Monaco. They're all sort of hanging out outside of the races. And they might say some stuff heated in the moment, like over team radio, but you would have that with any kind of sport. But when you then had a day to decompress and move on from it, a little bit like we saw after Austria, so many people I think were expecting, not to jump ahead or anything, but so many people were expecting that to be such a bigger thing than it actually was. And then I think loads of people have felt a bit let down, but like, oh, they didn't talk smack about each other afterwards. And I think this is kind of the same example here where, you know, you just take it race by race, really.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, going back to Spain, like this, after that start, it was, I want to say it's the most 2023 race we've had so far this year, other than the start, really, where once Verstappen was in the lead, he was pretty much gone, wasn't he? Like, it wasn't a hugely exciting race, but especially compared to the ones we're going to look at later on. Yeah, Lando coming into P2. Let's talk about Piastri a little bit, because this was quite a surprise, really. It started P9, ended P7, but he said he felt really uncomfortable in the car. There was something not working for him. Like, I'm trying to rack my brain if there was a time since they've been teammates with McLaren where Norris has been so far ahead of Piastri without there being external factors like luck or whatever, or a crash or whatever. Like, this time it was very much performance based. That there was something about the car that weekend. Like, he did recover as we'll go on, but something about Piastri in Spain, he just couldn't find his mojo, really. Couldn't get into the flow. Like, were you surprised by that? I mean, he's only his second season, but he's already looked very assured about all the challenges that are thrown at him.
Yeah, it was, especially around Barcelona as well, where many of the teams do a lot of their testing now, where you've got so much data to sort of just dwell on. And I don't know, I can't remember if it was because of something with damage or something during qualifying, but yeah, it just never seemed to really click with him. But I think as well, like, though, although he did start at a lower position, we did see pace, genuine pace throughout the race. And like, I think also this one race as well is where both Lando and Oscar, they really could show off overtaking maneuvers, not just like sending it down into the first corner, but doing proper side-by-side action and not having any like contact with anyone else. So I think as soon as kind of like Oscar kind of felt he couldn't really push much forward, I felt like that's when the team were kind of like, okay, it's probably going to be more of like, rather than just sort of pushing for the win, because they had a lot of stuff going on in up at the top end. You know, like both Mercedes all of a sudden like coming out from nowhere and having to sort of split the strategy up a little bit that way. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird one for Oscar. I mean, obviously now it's his first season not being a rookie. And normally it's pretty neck and neck. But I would say from these first like kind of 5 races, this is probably the one which he struggled with the most, whereas as we know later on, he excels at, actually. So I think this is the one anomaly really that, well, I mean, which just didn't really suit him.
Yeah, I mean, we can afford him that. Like I said, it is only his second season. These things happen. Yeah, he did very much bounce back. Let's go to Austria then. I mean, quite a controversial race. We'll come towards the end to begin with. But I also forgot it was a sprint. It wasn't. Yeah, it was a very exciting start to the sprint. I remember this at the time because obviously you had Verstappen starting P1, but then you had Norris and Piastri right behind him, and pretty much straight away it was Norris attacking Verstappen, and he did get him into turn 3. He actually pulled off that move, and yet ultimately he opened the door again to turn 4. Verstappen moves through, but I mean, worse than Norris is Piastri also moves through into P2, and that's ultimately how it ends. Like, there was no team orders to send him back round. Obviously, it's not a huge amount of points in the sprint race, is it? Like, it's not the end of the world if who gets one more point than the other. And I think Piastri very much deserved it, didn't he? Like, let's move on to the race then. Like Norris, a much better quality into P2, whereas Piastri started 7th. I mean, it was looking like you'd had a good race, but we'll come on into in a bit. Like the main theme of the race was sort of, it was looking like Verstappen was going to get away, wasn't it? It was sort of looking like Lando was going to have to settle for P2. But then towards the end, like Lando just suddenly started cutting into time. And I think Verstappen, you could tell from his radio message, was getting a little bit worried about that, like sort of very aware that Lando was cutting down. Before we get to the incident, like what did you make of Lando's race up until that point, up until that battle at turn 3?
Yeah, I remember watching it with a friend, and we were commenting that at the time of kind of like it looked like he and Oscar were both kind of just like not pushing it for whatever reason. We didn't know if there might have been like, you know, we sometimes hear radio signals coming through, radio messages come through the broadcast, but we thought maybe if they've detected like an issue or they need to like just coast it kind of to the end, because they weren't pushing like what you normally see in like races. Obviously you see as the fuel tank gets lower, you mean the cars get lighter, and if you've got a new tire on, you can start seeing some more fastest laps come through. But we weren't kind of seeing any like sort of green sectors or anything like that. And for ages, we were kind of thinking, okay, there must be like an engine issue, or they're just having to try and coast it to the end and then they're going to replace the engine for whatever reason. And then, yeah, it just transpires that when Lando then starts putting in some personal best to try and close in the gap, it was like, oh, they're just doing quite an aggressive tyre saving, where like Red Bull, they were just like saying to Max, you know, just absolutely gun it, just keep going. We can push these tyres now kind of to the end, when in actual fact in the kind of the last, like, you know, 10 to 7 laps of the race, by that point I think it was the medium tire, it might have been all the hards, or I think it was the mediums, was just starting to drop off entirely, but that by that point when Lando started to push, basically the gains he made per lap were more than what Max had made originally prior, if that makes sense. Which meant that we ended up with a sort of great battles towards the end of it, which then ended in very good fashion.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I mean, there was also a rare mistake from Red Bull in the pit lane, like giving quite a slow stop, which I think that was the moment that a lot of people thought, okay, this is on. Because like you said, Lando was cutting the gap, but there was still quite a sizable portion to Max. But that pit error, that rare pit error from Red Bull really put the two on a collision course. And like, as we said, they had this battle. So it essentially starts in lap 55. And for whatever reason, probably the track characteristics, both drivers decided we'll only overtake at turn 3. That's the one place where we will have a battle. The rest of the lap will be absolutely fine. Yeah, we'll be
I love Austria to bits. There's only 2 overtaking spots, and it's most of the time it is just turn 3. That's pretty much maybe turn 4, 5-ish, but like most of the time it's just like, I'm saving my tyres, I'm just going to send it, and then you're normally fine.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we have these. It's great watching, because obviously you have the battle, something happens, you have to wait like another minute, get the second round. So yeah, the first round, Lando tries to get him, doesn't quite make the move. Has another attempt, actually 3 laps later, briefly takes the lead, but goes off the track, and doing so has to give the position back to Verstappen. And then they're continuing, and then we've had this moment where Lando's coming on the outside into turn 3. Max, I mean, it depends what side of the camp you're in. Max either gets his overalls out,
I think it's pretty clear cut. I think it's pretty clear cut. And that's not me as like I love Max Verstappen, I love Lando Norris fan. I think like I can't remember who did the analysis now from Sky Sports.
Anthony Davidson.
I think it's pretty clear. Like, no, like whichever way you look at it, it wasn't really on. I mean, there's some bits where you can argue Lando earlier maybe pushed it a bit too much, but yeah.
I'm gonna drop the diplomatic thing. It was Max's fault. I mean, like the stewards agreed they gave him a penalty. Basically, Max shoves Lando off, and like it's one of those tiny moments where the contact doesn't even look that big, does it? Like we've seen crashes, like going back to when Stroll hit Ricciardo into Oscar, like that looked like a much bigger crash, and yet pretty much all those drivers were fine to continue. Whereas in this one, like you had the moment where both drivers get a puncture, and suddenly Lando comes out the worst. Lando has to retire. I mean, actually, to be fair, I don't think he had to retire, but I think he himself said, there's no point if I'm out of the points, let's just retire. Try and save the engine a bit. Whereas Verstappen able to continue a little bit. And like, this is the moment where it just exploded, wasn't it? Like like, if there's anyone waiting to have a bad word about Max the last 2 years, this was the time. They're coming out. They're saying he's the most dirty driver they've ever seen. which is obviously a little bit far-fetched, but like you said earlier, like it was that moment where we thought the Lando and Max relationship might get tested. I mean, it's a very harsh environment where they've got to go and do about 5 different medias after the event, and yet
Yeah.
Lando had some interesting comments saying he wouldn't, I can't remember what he said, like disappointed or whatever if Max didn't take the blame. Of course, Max, I mean, he didn't really take the blame, but he also didn't blame Lando. He was like professional media comment where he like skirted the line. Like, looking back, like now a few weeks after, maybe a month after, like what did you make of that incident? Did you think it was always going to happen? Did you think it was a bit of silliness from Max? Did you think it was Max getting under pressure and feeling the heat a bit more than he's done the last few years? Like, what do you think ultimately caused that issue?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that we've had this huge Max Verstappen dominance, not Red Bull dominance, Max Verstappen dominance, where they walked away with like an entire championship, and to their credit, because like they've developed a car, and I think even recently, like I think even like today, for example, the information came out of like, one of the developments they tried to do with the car, which unfortunately then got banned, of like, a way they can sort of assist with the braking and make it like the rear tires are talking a lot. But I'm a big fan of all of that, because basically if you've got a budget cap, develop the car to make it work and be as quick as you can. Absolutely love that. And like, it's not cheating. It's just all teams trying to not necessarily find loopholes, but just trying to make their car as quick as they can be. And if it means you can break the car in a better way, go for it. And so there was always going to be a point where that dominance was no longer going to happen. And then it's kind of like, right, you've had your time. Now it's everyone else who's kind of caught up. I've done the developments. And this, I think, was literally that moment of where Max probably realized in that, it's like, oh, here's Lando Norris and McLaren, who I've always joking to be a bit slower than me, but it's now literally battling for me for the race. And it was always, I think, going to happen of like that turning point. And I think he just got a bit heated in the moment, in all honesty. I don't think he's thinking about the whole championship and whatever. I think he's just thinking about, oh, I don't want Lando to pass me. So what's some little tricks I know of like, moving to the inside a little bit, or squeezing him out around the outside, or previous examples which he's done or had done to him to replicate it. And it's always a shame when crashes and stuff happen. It is just part of racing as well. Like it's not like a race ban. It wasn't obviously done maliciously. It's just part of it. Like there's the famous saying, rubbing is racing, and some people even complaining, be like, oh, if you can't even do that, then what's the point of even going on track? And ultimately, it's just trying to make it safe for everybody. But then at a certain point, you need to hold someone accountable. And I think it's the one time where, we held someone accountable, toys got thrown out the pram, but then you just move on from it, I think.
I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question. If you swap out Norris for Hamilton, does this crash happen? Because the reason I say that is Norris has obviously raced Verstappen a long time in the past, but he's never raced for the lead. And we've always heard Hamilton talk about how he races Verstappen differently. Do you think Hamilton's going to that corner and he's thinking, I know what Max is going to do. I won't do it. I'll try and get him later on.
I'm not too sure. I think it's because it's Austria. If it's a different track, then maybe. But I think because it's Austria and there isn't that many other examples where you could potentially go for an overtake. Apart from that, like you wouldn't really overtake into turn 1 because then you're going to be compromised going up into turn 3. And then, turn 4 or coming out of turn 4 and 5, that's pretty much, you sometimes see side-by-sides going from that. And that's the only real opportunities. So I'd probably say for Austria, no. But if it was a different circuit, a bit more open, let's say Spa, maybe so.
Well, Lando's loss was very much Oscar's gain. Obviously, Lando DNFing, but Oscar, who was in P4, looking like he definitely wasn't going to get a podium, suddenly he's there. He's like, oh, I'm in this now. Like
P2.
As he saw Toto Wolff, he was very much surprised that George Russell was going to get a win. Oscar, I maintain that if there was a few more laps, Oscar would have passed Russell. He was absolutely flying towards the end.
Yeah.
Russell was just holding on, waiting for that checker flag. And I think a few more laps, I think that would have been Oscar's maiden race win. And maybe it's nicer in a way that his actual win came from a dominant performance rather than two of the lead drivers crashing into each other. But yeah. Overall, good weekend for Oscar. Not so much for McLaren in general, because obviously Red Bull made up some points. Norris as well, obviously not a great weekend. The points after that was Norris on 156, it's still in second. Piastri 112 in 6th, and McLaren 268 on 3rd, which takes us nicely on to the British Grand Prix. And obviously, Lando Norris's.
Woo! British bias.
Woo, 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 woo. I was going to say UK. Like, I was like, that's USA.
Yeah.
Obviously, Norris's home race, McLaren's home race. Someone, I like this. Was it in the. I think it was in the top 3 interviews after Austria. Someone said, "Oh, you've got your home race next week to Piastri." He went, "Not mine, mate." He went so Aussie. It's like, it's not mine. I've had mine.
It's also, if we're being really technical, it's also not McLaren's.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not a New Zealand Grand Prix.
It still boggles my mind that McLaren, obviously the headquarters is in the UK, but McLaren isn't a UK company. It's literally got a Kiwi. It's a papaya. It's just It's the one thing that always grinds my gears a little bit. It's like, it's not really though, is it? It's like it's like Haas, for example. Haas is considered as an American team. Their headquarters are in UK though. So what's the difference? Anyway,
it's very much team. If there's ever a New Zealand Grand Prix, maybe they'll start saying that's our home race. But I think
100%.
I think we're going to be waiting a while for the New Zealand Grand Prix. Anyway, good qualifier for both drivers. Norris in P3. I mean, it was an all British top 3, which the newspapers and news people around here absolutely loved. I had people who don't even care about F1 telling me that. My 70-year-old nan told me that was the thing. I was like, I know, I was there. Piastri a little bit lower down, P5, and this was another race that was affected by changeable weather. I think this was probably up with Canada. This has been the most interesting race weather-wise, certainly, because it was a nightmare weekend. It was throwing it down a lot of the times. It was sunny sometimes. Like, it was all 4 seasons in one day a lot of the time. Come Sunday, it started dry. I mean, it looked fairly dry. It looked quite nice.
It was lovely.
Nice, nice day. You're thinking, oh, we might have a fully dry race, and then the rain arrives. So it was at this point where the McLarens absolutely had a huge amount of speed. Like, they were just flying by the cars, to the point that you had Lando P1 and Oscar P2 very much close together, and pretty much the chasing pack unable to get behind them. But unfortunately, this is going to be a time where you have to blame McLaren's strategy, because lap 27, when it's starting to rain, it's obvious it's now the time to switch to inters. They don't do either, really. They box Lando, but they leave Piastri out. And I find this amazing. Like, obviously, it costs you about 20 seconds for a pit stop in or around that mark in any kind of circuit. But by the time that Oscar gets to the pit stop the next time around, Lando's 5 seconds behind. So he's made up 15 seconds in the space of a lap. Like, it's crazy. Like, absolutely an example of Oscar having the bad luck and the strategy. Like, what did you make of that moment?
I mean, like, we were both there, and I remember, so I was fortunate enough to be watching it from the Hilton Hotel, where basically you could see all the garages in front of you. And I wasn't there with McLaren, but there was a McLaren representative there who obviously they got a deal with Hilton. And it was properly chucking it down, because the main thing with Silverstone as well is that it could be completely dry on one section of the circuit, which is miles away. But then the other circuit, it could be absolutely like chucking it down. And where we were, it was chucking it down on the start finish. And then, so McLaren call for the pit stop. Lando comes in, and then we all just realize they're not double stacking, and we're just like, because we see Oscar coming around the corner, and then we see both Mercedes are coming in to do a double stack, and it's clear that you can do it. So all of us were kind of shouting like, McLaren, what are you doing? And then, like, we just turned to the representative, and they were like, we felt a bit awkward because we were just sort of bad-mouthing McLaren. I don't mean it badly, but in that scenario, it was very much like, why didn't you double stack? And it could be down to a split decision. It could be to something which they haven't practiced a lot of. But either way, it's like, even if it was a slow pit stop, let's say Oscar is having to wait there for like an extra 4 or 5 seconds, it's nothing compared to how far down the order he dropped after having to wait an extra lap. And like, Mercedes showed that you could have easily double stacks and not lose a lot of time. And just after having such a great start to the race where, you know, you had some of the rain coming down, but then you just see Lando and Oscar doing just really, really well in the rain, and like but like I think both Mercedes went off originally, and that's how like Lando and Oscar was able to catch up. But then because you got these two young pups who just absolutely know how to drive in the wet. I mean, also I'm saying like George Russell is also a young pup, but it's just both of them just went off, had no control. But both the McLarens came through. It was awesome to see, like two teams with two drivers each battling against each other within the same camera shot. It was really cool to see. But I think this one, for the strategy, it just. I think this was the one which, McLaren had lost it on their own accord, not because of the drivers. And that's where so many people were clear to be vocal, saying it's all about the strategy here. And it's the one element which is really lacked in the season.
Yeah, they've talked about fine margins a lot, and this is definitely one. Like, we spoke about this in part one with Kieran, like, were they making the same amount of mistakes earlier on? It was just lower down the order and we didn't notice. But this one, when it's at the front, when it's for the lead, like, it's very noticeable. Like you said, Oscar came out in P6, which is mad. He was easily in the lead, up with Norris, and somehow comes out in P6. But from that point, it's a really mixed race. Like, there's a lot of teams going for the. Unfortunately, Russell has to retire his car. He was very much in contention.
Yeah, that was peak. Yeah,
he was in contention for the win. He sees that go, but ultimately, obviously, Lewis Hamilton goes on to win his first win since 2021. So I think the British crowd there were very pleased that they saw him finally win a race at Silverstone.
I think also as well, I think that was a good moment as well for, I think it was Toto as well, because I know he famously won the British Grand Prix when it was on like 3 tyres and such. And I think for Toto, like his radio message afterwards, sorry, I know this obviously it's the McLaren podcast, but we're quickly touch on this, is that, I think he mentioned there was like, as it's your last like season with Mercedes, we're glad at least you won at your home race in that kind of accord where it's kind of like we just work together as a team to make it work. So it's
it was nice for he got another win. I mean, it would have been probably not fair of his Mercedes time, would it, if he went since 2021 left Mercedes without getting another win? He could quite easily get. I mean, I was going to say he could get more wins, but he has got more wins. As we will come on to later. I just forgot because he didn't cross the line first. In terms of McLaren. Late on, Verstappen gets past Lando. So Lando qualifies, crosses the line P3, Oscar in P4. So again, another good lot of points if it wasn't quite the win thereafter. So crucially, this is when Piastri moved ahead of Sergio Perez in the standings, which seems quite crazy compared to we were at the start of the year.
Oh, God, yeah.
Norris on 171. I mean, at this point, Piastri's in quite an interesting bunch where you've got Sainz, you've got Perez, and you've got Piastri all sort of bunched up together. McLaren's still third, so like this sort of shows how much of a good start Ferrari had. That McLaren in third, still not overtaking Ferrari to go into second, obviously. And then we move on to Hungary, and probably I'm going to say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I reckon this is McLaren's best race of the year in terms of being dominant. Like, the performances were so good. P1, P2, front row lockouts for the first time since. My memory first. I think there was one in 2021. Was it the Monza? But anyway, a long time. It's been a long time since they were regularly doing this. But again, we're going to go back to the start. We're going to talk about the start. And it's another poor start from Lando.
Yeah, he does the exact same thing. Does the same thing. He moves across because he feels defensive against Oscar, and then Max Verstappen just
thank you very much.
Yeah, he says thank you very much. I mean, to be fair, also I think he also went off as well because he broke it, but then he was still ahead of Norris afterwards, and they argued back and forth to be like, "Oh, I went off the track, gained an advantage." Like, well, Oscar's currently leading. So
I mean that shows the fine margins, doesn't it? Because you're right, he did go off. He should have given the place back, but it took a few laps for basically the FIA to be like, "Oi, Red Bull." Give it back. So at that point, Norris and Piastri's just gone at that point. Norris hasn't got much hope of chancing of catching him without some pit stops up, which we'll see. Obviously, we're talking about bad start from Norris, but we can't like ignore Oscar, who had an absolute great start. Like
great,
takes the inside line, not bothered. Like that, I'll have that. Thank you very much. Get out of the way. And
I think they're really dominant. They're really dominant as well during practice and qualifying. I think as well. I think Oscar. I might be having to put this on the record here. I think Oscar was ahead of Lando in P1 and in practice 1, 2, and 3. I don't quote me on that. I think that so it's something along the lines of they're pretty much all the way up there. So it was more of a surprise. We wasn't really surprised that they qualified so well, but I think everyone was expecting Oscar to have gotten the pole position, not Lando. But he just seemed to do really well. Just during the race, Oscar was in his own world.
Yeah, and it's such an assured performance, wasn't it? Because we'll get onto the team cool stuff later on. But just that little moment where, from the start to where we have the pit stops. Like Oscar was just unbothered, was he? Like, is that one? Yeah, I think that's a word. Just unfazed, perhaps is a better way to say it. But yeah, absolutely great performance. And then McLaren pretty much shoot. They don't shoot themselves in the foot because they ultimately still won the race, but they shot around the foot like quite aggressively.
They put both of those drivers, or put Lando, I say, in a really difficult position, which was so unfair on Lando because it's. Like, I mean, like some people could argue and even be like, "Oh, well, Oscar technically wins off the circuit or whatever." It's like, well, no. It's like just because the strategy's not worked out, it doesn't make it fair for the driver. Like, why would they compromise someone else's thing? And I think the main issue everyone had with this was like, if it did get down to the end of the season and Lando loses a championship by, I think it was 7 points, this is the one time where they're like, this is the issue where it happened. However, what I would say to that is like, right, but you can't then just take away someone's win because of some form of strategy. That's very much on the team's fault, not the drivers. And so I think like trying to make it Lando's decision wasn't fair because it's the team's fault who put him into that scenario. That's where you had the whole spiel of being like, come on, Lando, remember what we talked about in the beginning? You know, you have to work together as a team. It's like, stop guilt tripping him. It's not his fault. it's you're the one who's done it and stuff. It's like, it's handing a loaded gun to someone saying, you have to shoot this ill animal. It's your decision. It's like, no, you're the one who's loaded the gun and passed it to me and like very much forcing me to do. I don't want to do this. That's a weird analogy. I'm very sorry. But I'm glad that Lando did give Oscar the thing back. I think the only thing for me, right, the issue I have with this whole thing is that the team should have done it a lot earlier. And I mean a hell of a lot earlier, because then what could have happened is that if Lando had done it like, I don't know, like, let's say 10 laps prior or something, after 3 laps, then you still have a genuine race in your hands of that Lando could then still overtake Oscar on pure pace, which then the team I could imagine could be like, oh, it's still unfair because you then overtook Oscar. It's like, well, yeah, but that's racing. That's my only critique for this is that, yeah, they could have given Lando the opportunity to win on pure merit. And so I think Oscar winning his first race like this, you even hear from the team radio, he's not like ecstatic at all. I mean, you had like, if you go cast your mind back to like when George Russell got his first point with Williams, he's like crying in the paddock and like, because he's so emotional and working for it. This one here, it just seems like Oscar's just finished the race. And he's like, yeah, thanks very much, everybody. And I know he's quite monotone and that's kind of how he is anyway. Which we all do love. But I think even he knew it's kind of a very muted response because it's not the way he would love to win. So I think the second win he ever gets will be way more animated. He really feels like it's on the merit, whereas this one, it kind of feels like, although it's not being gifted to him, in some ways it has been.
My thing would be, I think McLaren were just way too cautious. I mean, the reason they pitted Norris first is they were scared about Hamilton, but they had the pace all weekend. Like you said, they were so dominant in all the sessions. Like, you didn't need to be that worried about Hamilton. Like, you put in your drivers, like you said, you put Norris in such a difficult position. And I think if you put like the likes of Verstappen in it, probably Hamilton as well, they're going to be like, no, thank you. I'll have this win that you've just given me. You can deal with Oscar being annoyed. That was your problem. Like, it took a lot of convincing. It was almost like a hostage negotiator been brought in on the phone to Norris, like, please let him pass. Yeah. He eventually did. Obviously, that he's probably seen the benefit of doing it long term, that you want to have a good teammate. Like, we've seen down the years, if you want to win a title, other than maybe last year, obviously for different reasons, but most of the time, even winning drivers is a team effort. Like we saw Perez in 2021, Bottas throughout Mercedes run with Hamilton. So yeah, it's very much he did it for the team. And like you said, I agree that he just they shouldn't have put in that position. And also, like, if people say that if he does lose the championship by X amount of points and say, oh, this race is where he lost it, you could simply say, well, Lando was the one that had the bad start. Like, if Lando had a better start, this wouldn't have been an issue. And I think in Lando's defense, he did say that after the race. He was completely like, it was my bad start. It's nothing to do with Oscar. Like, it's a great win kind of thing. And like, that's been a real highlight of the both drivers this year. It's just their reaction. Reaction to the race. Like, going back to Silverstone briefly, like, Oscar was well within his rights to sort of just absolutely hammer the team, say, what are you doing? Instead, he's completely magnanimous about it. It says, like, this is a really tough decision. So yeah, it was a great, probably, I think, after Andrea Stella had calmed down, after the sweat had stopped running down, he probably looked back and said, that was the absolute ideal situation. But let's not do that again because we don't want
Yeah.
to put our driver in that situation. And I suspect if it does happen again, I don't know if Norris will be so generous or Piastri similarly. But
Yeah.
big point score nonetheless. Obviously, 1-2, first 1-2 for a good long time.
Which Lando also, quick side note on that one. Lando, I think, I don't know if it was in a post-race interview or if it was one they did on their socials, where Lando was like, oh yeah, our first like 1-2 in like, for so many years. Completely forgets
He was part of
1-2.
it.
But he also completely forgets he's done another previous 1-2 with Ricciardo in Monza, which was also a huge, big moment. That's the turning point for the team kind of thing. Instead of like, he forgot that because obviously he wasn't on the number one spot.
That's another one where a win was so close yet so far. I mean,
yeah,
very true. Yeah, I think other than the 2021, which we will say had an element of fortune with Hamilton wearing Verstappen as a hat. Yeah, it's been like I think it's about 12 years since their actual one on pure pace. But yeah, like we said, I think this is the race that really showed they were there. They're going to start fighting for the title. And crucially, it was also the race that they finally overtook Ferrari into P2. I mean, for a number of races we were talking about, it's Red Bull v McLaren. Yeah, Ferrari were P2 for a long time until Hungary when the 338 they had finally moved them into second. Norris on 189, Piastri on 149. Going into the final race before the summer break, so race 14, Belgian Grand Prix. And I'm going to say it was a bit of a muted race, this, wasn't it? Like, I think the high of Hungary wasn't really backed up in Belgium. Like, it was an okay race. I think nothing to be sniffed at. Obviously, Norris P4 goes into P5. Again, not a great start. He has to go wide at La Source, loses a lot of places, and then sort of the race flows on as normal. And we get to a situation again, like I'm going to skip all the way to the end, where weirdly, I don't know what possessed me to do this, but this race, I had Piastri's race cam like up the whole time. I was just watching him. And like you sort of saw like, oh, he's going very quickly. Like I sort of noticed perhaps before that it was broadcast on the main channel, I was like, he's going very quickly here. Like he's might be in for a win. Like we have the situation where Russell has done an amazing one start, which we will talk about because obviously didn't work out in the end. And then you've got Hamilton who's been quick. He's in P2. And yet lap by lap towards the end, Oscar's just cutting down, isn't he? Like it was a similar situation where he thought a few more laps and he would have got his second win 1 week after the other.
Yeah, this is what really annoyed me, right? And it's such a me problem. So earlier that week, I had to go out and film a YouTube video there about how the track organisers paint Formula One circuits. And it was a really, really expensive trip because I was in there and out there within like a day or two. And the entire time we were there, it was raining like non-stop, right? So in my head, I'm like, this is great. It's been raining Monday, raining Tuesday, raining Wednesday. Come race day, nothing.
Dry as a bone.
I was like, dry as a bone. And obviously, I don't want it to be a huge like thunderstorm like we had a few years ago, where we had no race entirety and like loads of people didn't get refunds and stuff like that. Of course, didn't want that. But having a little bit like what we had in Silverstone, where it was starting to be dry and then all of a sudden it's wet. That's what I was expecting. Had none of that. So that's my own personal annoyance with this going through it. I think it was really interesting in terms of tyre strategy because it was weird seeing Russell try and go for this one stop. But like you said, like, yeah, Oscar, this is, I think then was like the turning point for him to have the confidence now that like, yeah, he's in a car where he has race wins. Yes, he's already run before his race win. He already won a sprint race. But it wasn't like a proper win for him. And so I think he wanted to show like, okay, I need to kind of be stepping up a bit more. Because I know Lando didn't have a particularly good start with this one as well. So and I think I can't remember where Oscar started. I think Oscar started
P5.
fifth. Yeah, and then went up to fourth after the first one. Because yeah, Lando sort of almost went off into the gravel. And then it's kind of for him to be like, right, you know what? I now need to be. I don't think there's ever like a number one driver kind of with McLaren there, but they're like, okay, this is my race where I need to like step up and show pace, and it shows dividends. You know, like it's if he hadn't pushed so far, he wouldn't have then got, which was then later on P2. Like if he hadn't keep pushing, that's why you got to always keep going to the end of the end of the checkered flags, basically. Yeah, a bit of a weird one though for Lando. Yeah, I think he finished P5 in the end.
Swap places in fact. Yeah.
So it's but yeah, Piastri to go from P5 to P2, and then Lando, which was P4 to, I think, technically P6, and then obviously with the disqualification to P5. Yeah, I think it's actually really strong for Oscar, but also it must leave Lando going into the summer break with loads of like things he now needs to work on, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's the start, isn't it? And I'd be interested to see how he goes about fixing that. Like, I'd imagine it's kind of the thing where you can't fix that in a simulator because obviously it's not sort of the same.
Yeah.
Right? It's a bit like penalty shootouts in football. They always say you can't practice penalty shootouts until the real thing. It's probably similar to starts. Like, you have to get that under sorted. But yeah.
Just have like loads of AI all around you. Just keep rinsing and repeating like every single time for every different like little bits you can go into.
Yeah. Or just get all 20 drivers in simulators next to each other. Just play F1 online. Maybe that'll do it. But yeah, that's definitely something for him to work on. Like, as you mentioned, there was a bit of not funny business up front. There was a bit of controversy a few hours after, probably like an hour after the race. Of course, George Russell getting disqualified for his car being too light. A lot of people point to the one stop, saying he didn't have.
No, it's not that. It's the board. It's you can really look into that, being like, oh, if he had swapped tires, would he have lost that? And also, I think there was also one point which does kind of I can understand it, where Spa is the only one of the very few tracks where you don't go back all around the circuit again because it is just such a long circuit, and so basically you come around turn one and then go straight into the pit lane, so you can't do your normal pickup. But I can't remember where I saw it, but I'm pretty sure they were like, well, even if he had gone run and picked up a load of rubber, he still would have been underweight. And effectively, it's just where it's just it's the restrictions of the sport, unfortunately. And it's a shame to see. We've had it with loads before. You've had it even with like Vettel in Hungary, where he was just I'm slightly under the fuel limit. Which also, I think the whole fuel limit thing's like, well, if you get your sample out, great. If there's none left over, well, you still cross the finishing line, so you're fine. But I think that's where there's some bits in the sport are still annoyingly having to be like that. But it's racing. They have to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Russell's unfortunate was obviously great for McLaren. Oscar moved to P2. Great for Hamilton as well. It must have been a weird environment in the Mercedes garage afterwards.
Yeah, second win after the season they had before, and him promptly now going to Ferrari. It's a bit like, oh, maybe it wasn't the best decision then, but I'm looking forward to seeing him in red. So
yeah, I mean, somehow Mercedes have won three. Is it 3 of the last 4 races? Yeah, other than Piastri and
something
Hungary.
like that.
How's that happened? How has that happened? So yeah, obviously Mercedes coming good. Not too bad. A decent way for McLaren to head into the summer break. So the current standings as they are: Norris on 199. Still in second, obviously. Piastri 167th, moves ahead of Carlos Sainz up into 4th. McLaren second with a 42-point gap to Red Bull. I'm aware we're going very long, so let's just talk about some little talking points going into the second half of the season, or less than the second half of the season, should I say. There's only 10 races left. Is this period, these 5 races, are we going to look back and say that's crucial to the title race? Because what I mean by that is this was the time where McLaren were scoring a lot of points. Like, they were doing really well. They were getting some wins. They were getting a lot of podiums. Like, is this perhaps the most crucial part of the season that we've already seen for them?
Yes, and I can tell you why, because I will surprise you now. So, I have calculated the last 5 races of everyone who's finished in the points. So, in front of me here, I've got my own championship standings from the last 5 races of whoever is currently P1 in the drivers, all the way down to technically P16, just taking it from everyone who's won the points. So, do you want to hazard a guess at who is currently winning from the last 5 races? We were just taking the scoring from the last 5 races as its own championship. Who do you think is currently P1 at the moment?
I think it's Lewis Hamilton.
And you would be correct. He's got 92 points in the last 5 races. Who do you think is P2 in that championship then of the last 5 races?
I think it's Oscar.
It is.
Oh my God,
79. So then who do you think is P3?
That's where it gets tricky, because I would say Russell, but obviously he's got the DQ. Is it Max?
It is. 75. You're doing good, man.
Really well at this.
Right then. I won't go through the whole order. We'll do 2 more. P4 then. Who do you think that is?
I'm tempted to say Lando, but I'm not entirely confident on that one. I'm going to say Lando.
It is Lando, 62. Right then, last one.
Who's left?
P5. Who do you think?
Well, it's not Checo. We can rule him out. P5. Who haven't I said? Is it Russell? Is it Russell now?
It's not Russell, it's Sainz. It's Sainz with 50, but Russell's got 42.
I fell at the last hurdle.
But basically, like looking at this, right, and I know it's not the bigger picture stuff, but what you're mentioning there in terms of the title fight, if I look at here, for example, you got Hamilton at the top, which is fairly surprising because of the back-to-back wins. You've got like a McLaren papaya sandwich across Verstappen. So Piastri 79, Norris 62 points, and Verstappen only 75. Only 75. Ugh. The reason I say that is because you then got Perez, who's only scored 23 points. And so if this does carry on, Red Bull are not going to be looking good for a championship by the end of the season. And so obviously they've now come through with the whole meeting they had on a Monday morning in London somewhere, and they've confirmed, or they've not really confirmed, but the rumours are pretty much, there's been no declaration from from Red Bull themselves, but the rumour mill is basically like they're keeping with Checo to the end of the season, which if they do keep with that, it's not on brand for what they've done prior. I think many people were expecting a mid-season swap like they have done with pretty much all their previous drivers. But if they do have this issue with the car where they had to remove Bilovic, which was to help them assisting with the braking, and you then also got another driver who can't be quick in that machine anyway, I do genuinely think, looking at these point scores from the last 5 races, that Red Bull by the end of the season, I don't think they're going to win the championship. I genuinely don't think they're going to do that. I think McLaren might just sneak it in. If Lando sorts out his race starts right, which also, let's be frank, is a very small, minute thing. It's a very small world problem to have of like, oh, I keep losing the start and pole position. Nico Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen are like, we're just trying to keep our front wing clean. Like, let us have like a chance at some point, If they manage to fix that out, because these two guys are working really well as a team, they will easily, I think, get the championship. Like it's clear as day. And then, if you have this new resurgence with Mercedes, with Hamilton getting these back-to-back wins, I don't think it's going to be enough to be fighting for the Drivers' Championship. I think they're still very much between, Lando and Verstappen, or even maybe potentially Ferrari if they kind of figure stuff out. But I think in terms of the teams, I think it's Red Bull are going to lose it.
Yeah, it's on, basically. Yeah. Put it this way, 42-point gap and then 10 races to go. That's McLaren's outscored them by 4.2 a race, which sounds very, very doable, especially with Perez still in the car. My final question before we end, because it's been a very long episode. Do you think this momentum, this form continues into the second half of the season? Because as we know, I mean, it's hard to know how much teams can do during this break. So obviously, they've had a 2-week shutdown where they're not allowed to do anything. They had a bit of time before it. How much do you expect the grid to change? Do you think we could just carry on as we've been the last few races, or do you think Red Bull might resurge a little bit?
I think McLaren will continually be as good as they are at the moment. I don't think they're going to progress up as much, and I think I see the same for. I think what we're going to see is a resurgence from Mercedes. I think the progression they came into at the very end of the summer break is that they're on a good trajectory path. And ultimately, I'm just a fan for everyone to get more on the equal level playing field. Because I'm not a Mercedes supporter, but I'd rather have more entertaining races. And if that means more teams are quicker and some teams are slower to make it all equal, good for me. But I think it's just going to be, I don't think McLaren have said they're going to do much more development with the car. I know they did that a lot early in the season, and they even tested some, I think it was in Hungary, where they tried out some of the upgrades and it wasn't necessarily as quick, and so they just reverted back. But yeah, in terms of Red Bull though, I don't think they're going to be trying to continue as much, because I think come next year it's going to be a brand new car and potentially a new driver.
Very exciting. That's a great way to end this part, and indeed the whole show. Thank you very much for joining us, Matt.
Always, mate. Always a pleasure.